I just want to talk and I want honest answers. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And do you know what a foot and a half is? Because I'm from New Zealand, I don't. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film
It Comes at Night, which is also the possible winner for my title could also be a porno.
Okay, no, that is true. That is true. It is first I was going to say alluring title, but I don't know if that's exactly the case.
You know what's going to be fun about this episode?
What?
Is I know, just judging by the box office numbers for this film and the kind of audience that are going, like in my screening as well, it was like a dozen people, literally dozens.
Sure. Well, it's a smaller movie. It's an A27.
This is A24.
Oh, A24. I always say 27.
Well, you're adding 3
Plus
to
3.
things. Yeah, plus 3. Is that we are probably going to have an audience of 10 people for this.
Yay!
So for
These
you
are
10,
intimate. Come on in.
Come on in.
Get close.
And I'm guessing you're people that know who we are, what we do.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the email address again so you can email us.
Just in case.
We're hoping just because there's only 10 of you.
Just come on in. It's intimate. Just get behind the red door. I'm going to deadbolt it, and we're all going to stay inside and talk about this movie.
Cross your legs, sit down. Like, we're going to light a candle. It's going to be great.
Everyone put on your gas masks.
Yeah, lay down.
Shahir, where can folks find us?
You can find us.
No, not just Bane, gas mask voice.
You can find us.
We're not doing this. This is Bane.
Find us. I'm doing Bane Yoda. Bane Yoda. Find us, you will.
Oh, fuck. I shouldn't have done this.
No, onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter @onlymoviepod. Go to our Facebook page where a lot of action's going on right now. I mean, action by action, I mean, we're just posting things.
Action.
Action. Interesting stuff. And check out our website, www.onlymoviepodcast.com. Also, keep those reviews on iTunes coming. We're very, very excited that people are finding the show.
Yeah.
And really getting into it.
Yeah, if you survive this, if you do not get infected by the end, please leave us a review, leave some stars, and maybe that'll make the itchy tasty go away.
Also, we've been getting some emails. Now, the interesting thing is we've been getting our Wonder Woman episode and our Life Aquatic episode got a lot of comments. A lot of people, and it's people we know.
Bring it.
That are emailing us back. So
and it's all against me.
And listen, I offered not to do this.
I'm ready. Bring on.
I offered not. I said, look, we don't need to do this.
Bring on the pain.
So a week on, what are your thoughts on Wonder Woman? For those who are keeping track.
I still love it. I haven't gotten a chance to see it again, but I want to.
You want to see it again?
Yeah.
Okay. I have not thought about it again. Although it's funny, it's a movie that there is a lot of conversation going on about. This is Stephen Buja, friend of the show, host of Oscar Watch podcast. Check it out. Very, very good podcast. Hopefully, I think I'm doing an episode sometime soon.
Ooh, excellent.
He's wrote in and said, "Hey guys, just listening to your very lively discussion about Wonder Woman." It was a very lively discussion. I use the quotes because the trend I'm noticing about this film is that people are not discussing the movie on its merits itself. People are talking about the importance of the film. And I'm not disputing that. However, an important movie does not make a good movie, nor vice versa. And I love this sentence. It's odd. I'm siding with Shahir on this one. I won't go into the details because he's basically referencing things that we talk about in that episode. But he basically thinks that it's a movie that is unfortunately crushed beneath the weight of the burden it bears, but also is a rather lazy film. I think he's being a bit harsher than I was on the movie. He really didn't like the third act. He comes down to, ultimately, it's a regular superhero film, read dude origin movie with a female character. One could argue that the biggest hero is actually Chris Pine, because why do we give a damn about fighting Ares? Everyone's been going on about Patty Jenkins' direction, but what we're overlooking that it's still it's still a female film written by a dude.
Right.
I don't know how much input she had, but it would be curious to see Wonder Woman movie starring, written by, and directed by a woman. As always, you guys are great. So are you, Steve. Thank you for that email.
Yeah, I mean, look, Steve and I have been movie reviewers before you were a twinkle in my eye, Shahir. We were doing same night movie review back before YouTube.
Yeah.
So I am akin to young Steven's lovely opinions, and he and I have clashed quite a bit, as you and I do. I mean, look, I get it, and I get your points from last time, and I get his points in the email. I just think I don't 100% agree with sort of the just throwing it off as a sort of perfunctory film outside of the conversation being had about it, but more so, even if I agreed with everything that Mr. Buja said, I would still say the great outweighs the shitty in that scenario from a cultural standpoint, and I would even be okay with it. Even though I don't agree, if I did, I'd still be fine.
I didn't follow what you said, but I'm, like, again, I haven't really thought I guess I'm not that interested in this movie. I am interested in the conversation the movie generates, and I'm interested in having a conversation about why I think it's just, the thing to me it's just an okay movie.
Well, I think it's more than an okay movie, but since everyone, and not everyone, just actually really just 4-ish dudes that I know have sort of like knocked it back to like just okay movie, and now I want to go see it. I mean, I want to see it again, obviously.
Didn't you see it twice though?
I didn't, not yet.
Oh, okay.
And I'd really like to I'd like to see if I just had sort of like first timer goggles on, or like I don't know what it was, because it's from people I respect and whatnot. I just don't agree with it.
I'm not one of those people.
No. Come on. No.
Yeah, we've got a lot of interesting emails about that. We also had an email from Greg Baldwin this week, who's also been on the show as well. Again,
not siding with me.
I'm 90% of the time on Team Kroll when listening for the first time, but I can go on and on, but I think Matt is wholeheartedly wrong about The Life Aquatic. However, I'll save my gripes when I see him in person.
Will you, Greg?
Yeah.
Will you?
He also makes a request, and this is not the first request for this, but for us to do the entire Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah, it's on the list.
From Edgar Wright. So I think
that might be a good primer for Baby Driver. Oh, that comes out soon, doesn't it?
It does come out soon. Although I've seen all of these movies, so we could talk about them.
Yeah, I'd rewatch them again just 'cause I love them.
But essentially, I think this goes back into that conversation about music and film.
Yep.
I would talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. I talk about Life Aquatic.
And to be fair, Greg, I just want to shout out straight to you, buddy. Look, I felt bad.
By the way, I don't think Greg's in the room.
I was looking at an empty chair. Well, he's not coming by anymore because he's so mad at me. No, I wanted to like it. I wanted to still have the feeling I had for it, and I just didn't. And that disappointed me more than anyone. So I'm sorry that I'm sorry, I guess.
I'd be curious to know what his specific I don't agree with Matt is.
And then Red wrote in too, right? I believe he did. Check those emails. Check them. He didn't? Maybe he texted me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Red basically said the exact same things that Steve said. It was kind of interesting. And he did the whole, like, I don't normally agree with Shahir, but...
what is this? No, I don't normally agree with Shahir.
Look, you're not...
It's funny. A person was reviewing us on Facebook this week and said, Shahir hates fun, but he's always right about every movie.
Oh, that's fun. I could have sworn Red did that too, but I can't find the text. Anyway, I think there's 3 people in your corner this week, and that's fine. Hey, everybody. Why don't you defend me for once? I mean, actually, it's not true. They always defend me. This time, these two have been poignant, and that's great. Let's keep adding to the discussion. By discussion, I mean me screaming at people, me screaming at the void.
Yeah, that's what you do. It was a heated episode. It's a good one. It's a good one to listen into to see how the conversation can go. I think one of our better ones as well.
Yeah, I agree.
In terms of like us really going at the movie. But that's not why we're here. Why we're here is because something knocked on the door and it came at night. You see what I did there?
I did.
This is an interesting movie. This is a movie that I love to talk about, this kind of movie, because and if we just go on metrics alone, Rotten Tomatoes, 86% of critics love it.
Yep.
43% of fans like it.
Yep.
It's
a critics movie.
I saw this with a friend and we started like talking about that and was like, oh, it's actually true. Whenever critics love a movie, fans tend to dislike it. There's very few movies where those two things line up, and I think there was an interesting conversation that I think it was on Vulture or maybe AV Club that came out this week about the way in which we review a film like Wonder Woman, and the conversation was based around the fact that a lot of the male reviewers of Wonder Woman talked about things that were seemingly sexist. They were talking about her looks, her appearance, that sort of thing. The classic sort of sexist
Sure.
things that you would do for a film like that. And the argument was being made was that film criticism is classically a male-dominated area, and we need to like expand the idea of what film criticism is.
Sure.
And that everyone has a unique perspective on a film. So a scene.
It would help if we weren't the only podcast about movies. That's step one.
Well,
and then diversify from there.
Did you write the review where you were just talking about Gal Gadot's body? Is that what you were doing? Is that you? Or
Oh, no. Oh, these are written reviews.
Written reviews.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't know anything about those. We're the only audio. We should put that in our title.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think we did.
The only podcast. No, that's right. The only we did it. We're set. We covered our asses.
So I don't want to open the conversation about Wonder Woman up, but yeah, I mean, I noticed you pulled it up where it's.
I was looking at the numbers right now. Could you just read those numbers? What we were saying?
The fans and critics alike are on 92%. So it seems like the four people that defended me this week aren't on that same spectrum.
For once, I'm on the public side of winning.
For once, Matt Kroll is a public defender.
Oh, yay!
But I was really interested. So I had seen a poster. And every time
I hadn't seen the trailer for this either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It came up in a bunch of movies that I'd seen recently, and every time it would come on, it was like I would have to like jam like
your thing where
headphones into my ears because I was like, I don't want to see any image from this movie other than the movie itself.
Yep.
And then over the weekend, I went back and I watched Trey Edward Shults' first film, Krisha.
Yes.
Which is a film that I had heard very, very good things about, but had just, kind of never got.
How was that? I haven't seen it. I've seen the scene that we're going to talk about that you set up for me, but.
Yeah. So my jaw dropped when I saw it.
Yeah?
I was absolutely floored by Krisha. The thing to know about Krisha, and I know we shouldn't necessarily take the production history into account. Okay. It's a $30,000 movie that he made in his house with his family as actors. So the scene,
that's great.
And just to set it up, I showed Matt a scene from the movie that I wanted to talk about a little bit. And if you're listening in, the 10 people that are here, you can. The film is available on Amazon Prime. You can go to the 11-minute mark to see the scene that I showed Matt, which is about a 5-minute scene.
Yep.
The film was made with his family as actors,
which is great.
They're phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's made in his house. So it's kind of like a home movie in a weird way. But my jaw, even in that first scene that I showed you, absolutely hit the floor. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Oh, it's artfully done to get you to portray the feeling that he wants you to get. For me, the feeling that you get with that is it's uncomfortable to watch.
Okay.
The scene basically is of an aunt coming home to a family for Thanksgiving who she apparently lives alone, and it's all the hustle and bustle of this like 20-something family. Not they're all 20-something. There's 20 of them.
A big family.
And she's sort of dealing with like being in a house full of people for the first time in a long time, and it's the score and the sound effects sort of mixed with it that are sort of emphasizing this one-shot scene, or for the most part, one-shot scene. Yeah. Of her experiencing this, and it has a lot of like noises in the background, along with these noises, people watching football game cheering, there's a blender going off, shink 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 of a knife cutting food, and it gives you the sense of like, for instance, I very rarely have sensory overload. That made me feel like I had sensory overload, and that's what he's trying to do, and he did an excellent job doing that.
Yeah, and it's a scene that's very reminiscent. I would caution to use the word derivative, because it is very similar to a scene from Punch Drunk Love when this is happening to Adam Sandler as well in his warehouse, which even has the same a similar music score. But that's I was thinking a little bit about you and I, Matt, and I was thinking about the things that make us happy, and for me, that scene
for you is taking the joy away from me is really what
that's what it is. Yeah. If I can make you feel,
if there was a scene, and that actually, I totally get why you really like that, because that scene did suck the joy out of me. And again, from a technical level, I 100% agree. It's super effective and very skillfully done. I just felt awful watching it.
Right. Whereas what I was kind of, just having my emotions wrung was that how effectively it was done, and how masterfully this little film kind of took this idea and really made you feel it. Yeah. And I think like that's what we talked a little bit about this during the Wonder Woman episode as well. Is like films that are the words I keep using are hermetically sealed. I don't know if that's the right term to describe this, but there is a sense of confluence between the the way the film is actually made and what it's trying to say. And I really love that. I love it when a film is getting to a point and it's using the tools of cinema to do that, so, and using a really specific cinematic language.
So do you think that two-part question? Mm-hmm. Do you think that
I'll take the second part first?
Okay. I can't do it that way. Do you think that It Comes at Night is effective in the same way? And is it using similar tropes that he used here or different ones?
Well, let's get into our review of It Comes at Night.
Sure.
First off, go see Krisha. I think it's phenomenal. If you enjoyed It Comes at Night, you'll love it. I absolutely adored It Comes at Night. I thought it was phenomenal. It's actually and what I kind of was surprised by is it's using it actually felt a lot more subdued than Krisha. Krisha felt
even in that 5 minutes, 100% I agree with that.
Yeah, It Comes at Night is a lot more subdued than Krisha. The thing that I was really curious about was that the story of Krisha, and again I'm jumping around here, but this will all make sense eventually in the wash. Is that Krisha is a story of a woman coming back to Thanksgiving, so it seems like a family melodrama kind of story.
Sure,
but it's shot like a horror movie. And it feels like a horror movie. And so the fact that Trey Edward Shults was going to do a horror movie with A24, who is a studio that we know is trying to push interesting independent film work out there.
And I love their stuff. I mean, everything I've seen from them, I've liked overall.
Yeah. Just is incredibly exciting. And as well, this is also led by Joel Edgerton, an actor I really, really like.
Same.
So all of that said, I was kind of primed to like it. I would have to say it's in my wheelhouse. It's the kind of film I'm really, really excited for. I think we talked a little bit about this in our Guardians of the Galaxy review, is that this is a $5 million movie, and there's the potential for these kinds of movies to get lost in the wake of like the Guardians of the Galaxy and that sort of thing. And this movie made its money back. It's doing okay.
I mean, I could see that. I also think as the audience, the audience reaction to it plays into that as well for me, about the whole worry of it getting lost or not.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there now.
Well, the point to that is, yes, I was in an audience. I had 3 fairly young people sitting next to me who were often looking at their phones, who got up to get snacks midway through the movie, and then were often going, what the fuck is happening here? Why are we watching this? And what's this? And then when the ending came, you could just hear huh? But then there were 2 people in front of me who clearly had come because they knew what the film was, and they seemed to love it. They were completely into it, and I was completely into it as well. My gut feeling about this film is that it is claustrophobic. It is tense. It's really, and it's defying expectations on almost every level. It's doing things that you would think just from the title you wouldn't necessarily expect. But what I really, really liked about it is that it's such an experiential film. It's such a film about putting you in the moment of having to deal with a decision that's being made right in front of you. So for example, the story is about this family that is isolated, dealing with some kind of disease, but they're entirely boarded up in this house, and trying to keep people out. They have gas masks and a limited water supply. And a stranger played by Christopher Abbott, Will, appears in the house. And Joel Edgerton's character, Paul, kind of puts him through the ringer in terms of tying him up, tying him to a tree, putting him outside, and then has this conversation with him where he's essentially saying, look, I don't want to hurt you, but my family comes before everything else, and I'm gonna.
His family consisting of his wife, his son,
and a dog,
and
what I loved about that scene is that I understood and empathized with every decision he was making. I also understood and empathized with every decision Will was making. It was one of those scenes where I was like, this is such a good example of writing that is trying to put you in this moment. It's not trying to give you backstory about the whole, everything that's happening. It's just trying to say, okay, we're in this scenario. What are you going to do? And for me, the reason this film works is that that's what the film is doing.
I mean, I think this film works for a lot of reasons. I think the exact stuff that you just said is 100% true. I think the dialogue and the actors and the sort of the acting that is on and directing on display is exquisite to keep you in those moments. I think the set design is wonderful. The house that they're in has a lot of interesting camera angle tricks. One that particularly worked a couple times on me was a mirror hanging in the main room where you sort of see the person coming down the stairs from the opposite side, and it throws you off. It just, when they're walking through a house at night, it kind of throws you in a very interesting way, not in a cheap, cheesy way. Mm-hmm. I also like the whole small feeling about the apocalypse. Again, the setup of the world for me, because the world honestly was not the draw of this film. It wasn't, why is this happening? What is the disease? Yada, yada, yada. It was, what are these characters going to do in the world? So it gave the exact amount of exposition that I felt it needed. It turns the genre a bit on its head. Actually, I wouldn't even call this a horror movie, to be honest. It's more of a psychological thriller, but you don't quite really know that until the end. Then the sound design also, in conjunction with the cinematography, again, is really, really, really on point. The dialogue, like I said, the dialogue. But here's where my thing sort of falls apart. This thing actually, for me, the story and the pace is great until one of the maybe 2/3 through the film for me, where there's a turning point, and then everything to me gets stupid. Okay. And I this is the Signs effect for me.
Okay, well, you've listed a bunch of things that you like.
Yeah.
But just kind of give me your overall impression of
walking out of the theater. I was angry at the film.
You're angry at the film.
Yeah. Okay. And my entire audience was angry at the film. I think a little bit less critically than I was trying to be, but like I literally heard 2 different couples be like, I want my fucking money back. Right. And I was like, first of all, public service announcement. If you sit through a whole fucking movie, you don't get your money back. I don't give a fuck if you liked it or not. You sat through that whole thing and they have your money. So I don't know if those couples went to try to get their money back, but if they did, that's pure bullshit. So I fucking hate that.
I've got, if we're going down a side note, I have an example of that where a movie distributor was playing the movie Irreversible. You know, the Gaspar Noé film, and they came out at the screening and said, "Hey, look, guys, this movie is a very disturbing and a difficult movie to watch. We want you to know that you do not have to sit through this movie, and if you leave at any point, including the final credits, and want your money back, we will give you your money back." And they were making the point that like we don't want anyone to feel like, just because you paid for this, you have to sit through this. I was like, nice. I was really taken by that sentiment.
That's great, but this isn't the same thing.
No, this isn't the same scenario.
So I was upset, and I kind of want you in our discussion, Shahir. I kind of want you to save me from. I would love to love this movie.
Me? Yeah.
But the Signs analogy, I forget if I've talked to you about that before.
So I've seen Signs.
Okay, so this is my problem with Signs, and it's not it's the same problem in scope, but not obviously the same problem in situation. Okay. So Signs is the tale of Mel Gibson and his family. Spoiler alert for Signs. That has alien encounters. Aliens are coming down to Earth, and apparently for the only reason that we're actually told, because we're not told the whole macro of the entire thing, or the micro for that matter, to eat people. They're eating people. We see them. They rip limbs off.
But not water-based people.
Well, here's the thing. The end of the movie, the thing that hurts them is water. So here I am, an intergalactic species that's traveling thousands of light years to travel to a planet that's covered in 75% of the stuff that kills me, to eat things made of 80% of the stuff that kills me. Okay. It's a narrative leap after doing an otherwise exquisite job of storytelling in every aspect of filmmaking that makes me it breaks the entire thing for me and gets me a little bit. Same with, Lobster's a little different. But like, it's that one aspect that then turns the most delicious meal I've ever had into just a steaming pile of rotting food. And I'm not sort of saying I don't want to shit on the film itself. That the analogy I just used was kind of harsh, because there's a lot of beautiful things about it, and I think even the way we experienced that scene from his previous film, it speaks a lot to how we both experience movies. You were looking at the sort of technical mastery of like how that emotion was being able to be portrayed to an audience. I was really feeling the emotion, and that emotion in that particular scene was uncomfortableness. Right. So I can totally see from a craftsmanship perspective how this film is amazing, but from an actual just audience member perspective, in being engrossed in the film, there's a part eventually that just broke it for me.
Well, see, I think there's a difference in what we responded to in that scene. What I'm saying isn't that it's technically crafted to I'm not being purely analytical. What I'm saying is I feel the emotion in that scene, and I'm impressed by how effectively I felt it because of how well that scene is made.
Right.
So I think that's slightly different from whereas what it sounds like is you don't like feeling that way.
I was distracted. I couldn't focus until after the scene was sort of done.
Yeah.
On the being awed by the craftsmanship that made me feel that way.
Right. Okay.
So in the experience of watching the film, and I've thought about. I mean, I saw this film yesterday. It comes at night. I was trying to sort of think of ways to not even have this harsh of a tone for it at the end of it, because I really like 80 to 90% of the film, and probably even more. But it's like the keystone to one of those old stone bridges. Like that thing's not in place, and the whole thing crumbles for me.
So we'll move on to spoilers here, because I understand what you're saying about signs, and that makes sense to me. Sure. I don't see where that analogy.
It's a little bit different here. Yes. So the whole thing. We'll get to spoilers now.
Let's Wait, we're saying Stooge. I was like,
we're just making noises. Is that I Dream of Jeannie or Bewitched?
Spoilers.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
that's our song.
All right. No, it's not our song.
If anyone wants to remix it, go ahead.
Yeah, please. So eventually, after Paul runs Will through the ringer, they decide to go get their family. It turns out Will was not lying. He has a young wife and an even younger son. They move into the house. Paul lays down the law.
Yeah.
And this is about the house. Let's just set this up for the audience just in case they're deciding to listen to this without seeing the movie. Paul says at a dinner table very calmly, and Paul's very pragmatic, and I really do appreciate you can experience this film from everyone's perspective. And you're never like, that person's a crazy person, because you can see like, oh, like I've felt this way sometimes about this, whatever.
Yeah.
The rules are there's one entrance to the house, and there's an outdoor door, like a door that leads to the outside that is locked with a key. It's around Paul's neck at all times, or given to Sarah.
Yeah.
Then the inside that room is sort of like I guess what I consider their quarantine room. It's wrapped in plastic. It's where the grandfather in the beginning of the film passed away, or they were keeping before they had to go out and kill him and burn his body, because that's what you do with infected people here. Then there's this interior door that's painted red, and it's very ominous. And now since then I've watched the trailer. It's the one you see in the trailer. Yeah. And then a long hallway, just one hallway that then gets you into the big house. That's the only, everything else has been boarded up, he says.
Yeah.
So they don't go out at night. I can't want to call him Joel because it's Joel Edgington.
Yeah. Paul. His name's
Paul. Paul's like, I have the key to the outside door. The inside door stays bolted at all times.
Yeah.
Family agrees. There's a nice montage of everyone getting along. That's super nice. Then as it's happening, Travis, his son, Paul's son, is kind of sort of having he can't sleep a lot, and he goes and like eavesdrops in the attic on people because he has nothing else to do, and he's a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
He has having sort of like waking dreams. He's having sort of nightmares at the nighttime, obviously.
Yeah.
Otherwise they'd be daymares, and then they'd be beautiful horses. Okay. So it's a mare.
I think you're talking like a Blade Runner.
No. Okay. He has one interaction when he can't sleep with Kim, who is Will's wife.
Played by Riley Coe from American Honey that we talked about.
Yeah, so she was great in the film. And there's a weird moment where they're downstairs. This is the first, obviously, young woman he's come across in forever, so his gaze slips. We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been in a post-apocalyptic setting where we meet the one woman who's kind of our age.
Yeah.
And then they sort of break it up. Nothing happens, but like he starts having sort of like, lustful thoughts, at least about her, even on a lizard brain level. And again, that's not, you don't blame the kid for it. It's just sort of happening. And then he has a nightmare about her and blah, 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 blah.
Okay. I'm still waiting for the connection to.
Right. Well, the science connection is going to sort of come in a little bit. So,
okay.
Eventually, as is apt to do in these films, something goes wrong. So we've established that, that Travis, the son, has been having weird nightmares, and we're never quite sure, like, is this happening? Is it not? Is he waking up? Whatever. Oh, and the dog. The dog runs away in the middle of the film when they're outside. It sees something. This film does a lot of this, which is a trope that I kind of dislike. It's characters looking off in a distance, be it the dog or Travis or a couple other people, and then like having that, oh my God, I see something, and then never showing what you see. Okay. So the dog runs off.
Don't they say, I don't know what I saw. I heard the dog and I thought I heard something else.
At one point, there's a couple other points, but then it's in the dream or the not dream. It's all very sort of, I'll get to that in a moment. So the dog runs off and the dog's barking, then all of a sudden you're like, Burr! And the dog's done. And they're like, all right, everyone inside. And they're like, you know what? We're going to, staying inside. The dad freaks out at Travis. This is the night where things get weird.
Mm-hmm.
Travis wakes up because he never sleeps. He goes and finds the son, Andrew, of Will and Kim, sleeping at the foot of the bed of the grandfather's old room. And he's like, oh, come on, buddy. Like, we gotta go back to your room. And it's all creepy. They put him back in with Will and Kim. And then he hears noises downstairs and he goes downstairs. And he gets to that long hallway and hears like barking and growling and slamming. And the door that's supposed to be deadbolted is open.
Right.
And he walks out.
Yeah.
Ah! And the dog is in the inside.
Okay.
And that's the conclusion of this about how the red door was open. And then the family sits down and they have to kill the dog. And they have this discussion like, well, so then you came out, you opened the door because you heard the noise. And he's like, no, I didn't open the door. And then they have this whole long, who opened the door? Could the little kid have opened the door when he was sleepwalking? Does he sleepwalk? But the film with a film that's so based in precaution and procedure and just making sure that everything is in order. Yeah. It forgot a major plot point.
Which is that the father has the key?
The father has the key. The dog couldn't have got in the house. No one questions in the conversation where the key was or how the dog got inside. It was just, why is the red door open? Who opened the red door? Is there someone? And that's the thing that stems all of the not trusting the family sort of separate. But at that moment, this film had been so meticulous to me about this very intimate world it had set up that it just ignored one major thing that it set up in the beginning for me. And the entire time I couldn't stop thinking about the dog couldn't get in the house.
Do you think it's possible that the son got a hold of the key? Travis.
Yeah. It's entirely possible, but the fact that they set up that as a precedent and then didn't pay it off with even
so I'm asking you that question. Do you think that's possible within the framework of the story that he...
Sure, but it is never done or said.
Do you remember a dream sequence when he goes outside and picks up a gun and shoots the dog?
He goes outside. He never sees what he shoots.
Do you think that there's that it's possible that Travis is the one who's sleepwalking?
Yeah, no, that's 100% who's sleepwalking, 100%. But this is my point.
Right.
I
get. No, here's the thing. I get what you're saying. I'm saying
all these things are possible.
It's all possible, and I think.
But for a movie that's based in pure procedure and a movie that's based in pure just like this is how we need to do everything meticulous. We're even going to set up this thing to be meticulous. And then to throw out things like that, all that's possible. But they're doing that in a the filmmakers, is doing that in a manipulative way to basically make suspense further or lengthen, where I think there's other ways you could do it. Or at the very end, wrap. And I'm not saying I need it in a bow, but if you make half your film about procedure, you need to pay off those procedures, and it doesn't.
I guess what I'm saying,
Travis 100% is sleepwalking. By the way,
I guess what I'm saying is this doesn't seem like aliens who are killed by water. This seems like a small. Yeah, I agree that potentially this is one of those. So I have this analogy whenever I'm making a film.
Sure.
I remember making a film years ago. I wrote a film that someone else made, and I was the writer on set. And and there was a scene where a person walks into a room, and then they walk into the next room, and they have a torch in their hand. And it was the question that was asked was like, do we need to set up this torch? And I sat down and agonized about it forever. I was like, do we need to see this torch? And then eventually, I can't remember if we actually wrote the scene or we shot it or anything like that, but it came down to the edit and it was like, I don't need to see this torch. I just need to, my audience just needs to.
Nope, I 100% get that.
You know what I mean?
This is not that. Because the movie sets up what's important and then breaks its own rules. That's what gets me.
I mean, if that breaks the movie for you, then that breaks the movie for you. I'm telling you now that the dream logic of things that are happening to Travis, which seem to be more important to me, that makes this all the more interesting.
I just feel like it's manipulative in a bad way to an audience.
Now
sorry, just to sort of point it up. And the only reason it is because of how they set things up in the first half of the movie.
Right.
If they did it differently, and if they didn't sort of have this tenor of be everything, a place for everything and everything in its place, and then they don't do that in their own sort of rules. You know what
this brings me to is an interesting conversation we had last week. We talked about exposition.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about a scene, or I don't want to open up the Wonder Woman discussion again, but like I thought that the opening scene was very much an exposition dump, and I found it to be inelegant.
I did not, but yes.
What I was really loving in this film, and I found so refreshing and interesting, is that this movie plays exposition in the exact way that I think I was talking about I wish a film like Wonder Woman could do, which is that we're not being told, hey, this is what's happening, we're kind of experiencing.
I 100% agree, but that's not what I'm talking about with my gripe. I think this movie does that it does a very Mad Max thing. Granted, Mad Max is a bigger scope. This is a very small scope, but it teaches you about the world that these characters are living in very naturally.
Right. And what I'm saying is the notion, because it seems like the thing that you're fixated on is that only one person has this key and only one person could have this key at all times.
Because they set it up as something very important.
That doesn't seem to me as structurally problematic as aliens who are affected by water.
Sure.
Who are affected by water. It strikes me as a kind of like flashlight in one room and not in the other room kind of thing, which is that I mean, we don't know how much time has passed in this thing. We know that the family has become much more relaxed as time has gone on. We know that things have moved into a good place. I'm completely comfortable with the idea that the key, that someone else got a hold of the key. And I'm presuming Travis at this point. I'm 100. If that breaks the movie for you, then that breaks the movie for you. I'm telling you the reasons why I don't. It doesn't break the movie. And
I feel like
you saying it is the only time I've ever stopped and gone, huh. But it doesn't. Even stopping and thinking about it doesn't break the movie for me.
I don't think it's
even the slightest bit.
I don't think the torch analogy works for this. It's just like I don't think the signs analogy is a perfect thing either. The torch doesn't work for me because if a character is going from one room to another and then it's entering a dark room, it's possible that they just picked up a torch. The torch was not referenced. They didn't reference the torch earlier in the film.
Do you think that's possible that Travis has like we've seen him wandering through the house?
But that's a cop out to me, honestly. Is it possible? Is it possible that that Diana was explained in Wonder Woman how she can't come back to the island? Oh, sure, it's possible. They didn't do it, and you had a problem with that,
right?
Like, so my point is,
but see, that to me is a major point. Whereas this seems like
they make it a major. There's a scene that focuses on the father that lasts for about 5 minutes where he goes over all the rules and how the house is set up. And these are the things that we're supposed to know to be able to follow. And they don't follow up with it. It's, to me, and again, it's just, it's a small bit of laziness in an otherwise fantastic film. And I need that keystone for me to actually be able to do it.
I would say as a filmmaker that the like seeing Travis take the key or whatever would not only have it around his neck at the end, the last scene we see him, just something like that. Or have the father touch his chest and something and never reference it again. Like, but it doesn't happen. Right. I just feel like that's the kind of scene in editing you would do possibly and realize it's not that important.
But here's a fun idea. You can make your entire thing work by just don't reference the key around your neck and still in editing save the entire thing and not have this problem. But they didn't. They felt it was important enough to keep in that table scene when they were explaining the rules of the movie, but not important enough to follow up on later.
Again, to me, the logic of the film doesn't dictate that Travis didn't get the key at some point.
Right, but that's the same as saying like the logic. I could make up any excuse to go over.
Here's what I think you're getting hung up on is you're saying because the film sets up the rule that the father has the only key, therefore, unless they say otherwise, the father is the only person that can open the door.
But that's not where the story actually goes.
Right. And I'm saying that doesn't seem like that.
I cannot stand when any narrative sets up a rule, then just discards the rule without any mention of discarding the rule. And now, so there's other things to talk about other than this, because I don't want to just keep harping on this. The end sort of big moment of this film when they decide to quarantine off and then there's this sort of level of distrust. Travis goes up in the attic and hears that Will, Kim, and Andrew are planning on leaving. Then they have this big kerfuffle, ending in tragedy, with them wanting to leave with just half. And it turns out that Paul's character, which is sort of like the stereotypical, like everyman kind of guy that like always saves the day in these sort of post-apocalyptic scenario films that we've. It's like, oh, if the apocalypse happens, we're gonna have to trust Joe Countryman with a bunch of guns to get this shit moving. Where
also a history teacher.
Yeah. Whereas this one, him and Will get into a fight. Will almost kills him, but I think does Sarah shoot Will?
She shoots him in the back.
Yeah, and then Will picks up the gun and shoots at Kim holding Andrew running away, hits Andrew first, killing a child. Couple walked out on then, can't blame them. Okay. Because people you can't know history of people and whatnot. It was a powerful scene. It was terrifying and heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And then Paul finishes the job and kills Kim. Mm-hmm. And then refresh my memory, because at this point I was still kind of broken with my whole narrative logic. It ends with Will. How do we know that then Will is sick at the end? Because Will is sick.
Will is sick. We have a scene where his mother, played by Carmen Ejogo, Sarah, sees him and he's covered in blisters, so she knows he's sick.
Okay, that's what it was. And then it's just the movie ends with Paul and Sarah sitting at the table. Yeah. Like just in silence and just in horror of what has happened. Well, and knowing that even through all of their precautions and everything, nothing they did matter and they're all going to die.
Yeah, I think to me, what's interesting about that final scene is that it leaves me with this question that I think as a parent is terrifying, but as a kid of parents, it's just like, which one is going to die first and how are we going to handle that death? And what I love about that final scene is that, these two people are left with that conundrum.
I guess I can see that, but at the same time, the film does nothing to sort of set that conundrum up. They're still sort of living in the poison and the pain. I think that's a very personal thing. I don't see that.
I think because the thing is, the film is experiential, right? Like it's all about like, what do I do in the scenario? So I'm sitting there.
I don't think they're wondering what are we going to do and who dies first. I think they're like, oh my God, we're all fucked.
They're all fucked, and like how is this going to go down? Like how are we gonna negotiate our eventual demise? The film has set up the parameters is that once you have the illness, death is inevitable, right? So now for these two characters, death is inevitable. But which one is going to suffer? Are we going to kill each other? There was one part of this movie that I was curious about, and it felt like this was slightly either a missed opportunity or something that they changed in the edit, because what I was, again, this movie engaged me in a way that few movies do, which is that I'm thinking through every parameter of what is happening.
It felt very witchy for me. Does that make sense? You really love The Witch. It felt very similar to The Witch, and I figured you'd like it.
Yeah. Totally. Also an A24 film. I like I
like The Witch better.
I do. I like The Witch better in that I think The Witch gets to a more profound and interesting ending than this film does.
And for me, it never breaks its own rules.
Okay, sure. The thing that I was sort of thinking about as this was happening was that, okay, now we've got a scenario where our child has contracted the illness, which means we have to kill our child. But we've also Sarah has willingly exposed herself to the illness. In that scene where she says it's okay to let go, she's no longer wearing a gas mask.
Yeah.
And we also know that Travis has been in the room with Sarah and Paul. So they're all exposed.
When did Travis get sick? Do we even know?
So my theory is that Travis has probably, there's this idea that it takes 24 hours for symptoms to appear.
Sure.
But I get the feeling that Travis may have been sick the whole time. And the fever dreams that we're seeing.
That's what I thought.
The fever dreams that we're seeing are the manifestation of the illness slowly.
Yep. That's what I figured as well.
By the way, there's a fever dream in this film where he like wakes up and sees blisters on his hands, and then he wakes up from that and he's rubbing his hands, and then the blisters are there and then they're gone. Mm-hmm. I know double dreams are like one of those tropes in movies. This one perfectly captured the anxiety I have when.
Oh yeah, that felt real. Yeah,
when I have a dream and you
wake up and then you're not waking up.
Well, yeah, and also, like, say, for example, you have dreams where all your teeth have fallen out or something like that, and you wake up and you're like, you still feel like your teeth have fallen out, and then you touch your teeth and they're there, and you're like, this wave of relief comes over your body. I just think that was so well done.
Yeah, agreed.
So you have this problem now where the three of us have this disease. So death is an inevitable part of the equation. The question is now, as a family, how do we decide what form death takes? And the thing that I was like thinking about was like, what seems like the case that we should all do if death is inevitable is set the house on fire. And
there's actually a scene in the trailer.
That was the thing. I was like, that was what I was thinking about as that scene was happening.
I bet you there's a different ending.
Yeah, and then I went because I don't watch the trailers. I watched the trailer afterwards, and there's a scene where the house is on fire in the trailer, and I was like, oh, I wonder what happened here that made that scene not work, or for them to decide to end it at this point.
Well, I tell you, and maybe that's where my key got lost. But maybe also it's just and we've learned this from The Lobster, and we've learned this from a couple other things. I hate these endings. I don't like these endings. In this movie, I was so already broken from it, like I didn't have that visceral, like, fuck you thing for the ending, because the ending and the scene before it is so powerful that you're just like, ah!
Yeah.
But when it ended, it felt so abrupt to me.
This is one of those endings for me that was like, this is the perfect point to end your movie.
No, I was just sitting there, and I was like, I looked over at my friend Katie, who I was with, and I was like, what? And that's when I heard people just be like, what the fuck? And like, that's the end, and I want my money back. And I'm like,
but see, so my experience at the end here, and again, I'll take it as my experience.
Sure, I want people to like this. It's made great.
Is death is inevitable, and what I love also is that there is this. It's a shot that's repeated from the start of the movie, which is that we have this triptych of Joel Edgerton, of Paul, Sarah, and Travis in this trifecta.
Yep.
And the trifecta has been broken. And it also it related to the title to me as well, because like the question is, what is it?
Well, it's paranoia.
It's paranoia. It's also the disease. The disease comes at night, and it's like, and these two characters are now.
How does the disease come at night?
You wake. I mean, I'm presuming you wake up with it, and because that's what happened to Travis.
I think it was paranoia. I think this title is again, this is my interpretation. I think it's 100% paranoia.
But it's open to interpretation.
Sure, but if you look at what the entire film does as a trope and what it uses throughout its entire thing, it is paranoia.
At any rate, yeah. my question was when was the disease going to come for these two, and at what point was it going to? At what point was this going to start happening?
The ending was so abrupt that I couldn't find myself to care.
Right. Whereas I see again, this is that thing where Wonder Woman, as an example, or Guardians of the Galaxy ends, I feel relatively not a lot.
They wrap it up.
Whereas with this just leaves me.
I think
leaves me with a question, and it leaves me engaged. It leaves me engaged in the story. It leaves
me infuriated, and it leaves me, and again, so an example of a film that I think does something like this, but not this.
Yeah.
But this kind of like, let's leave them hanging on a thing that maybe they'll keep talking about after the fact, where it really works and it doesn't damage it because it's not what the entire sort of film is about. Inception in the top. Inception has a ton of problems. Whatever. Okay. But the ending of Inception, when the top is spinning and you're not quite sure if he's still in the dream or not.
It's clever.
It's clever.
Yeah.
It's not narrative dependent, and it leaves you guessing and talking with your friends and trying to find hints and going back through the film, etc., etc. This, and I've noticed this about you. I know your mind, and you really like the cerebral exercise of after a film, especially with a film that sort of has an ending that's very truncated. Yeah. You really enjoy getting into the character's head and be like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And I think the filmmaker in you sort of dives into that and thinks about all the wonderful possibilities that could happen narratively, where the filmmaker in me is angry that there's not a completed sort of the story is done. This is the thing. I'll finish with this. Yeah. The story is done. There's no question.
Yeah.
The movie doesn't feel like it has an ending to me.
Right. Whereas I like, the thing is that 3-act structure has been around for a long time. We all understand how a film should reach a 3rd-act crescendo and then move on to a denouement and then resolve.
Ooh, say that word again.
Denouement.
Yeah,
I've been practicing my French.
Hello, ladies.
But what I love, so my thing about cinema.
Now say cinema with a French accent.
Cinema.
There you go.
Les cinématiques. My thing about cinema is that I feel like what I love about cinema is that engages my brain beyond the scope of the 4 angles of the screen. Like it takes me out, cinema to me is about the way you live your life. And it is this about me. Cinema is my passion in life.
Yeah.
It is the thing that I think about the most. It is the mode of communication, which I think is the most important to me.
Yeah.
So what I love about cinema and what I love about the power of cinema for me is when a movie such as It Comes at Night, or I do like The Witch more as a film, is that the ending kind of flowers open my brain, and it gets me thinking about things in a different way. And what that ending had me thinking about is this broken trifecta of people and the way in which they are now left with this inevitability of death coming along. What I think about you as a reviewer, as a filmmaker, as a person, is that you prefer it. I'm not sure if this is exactly the case, but you don't like it when a film makes you feel something you don't want to feel.
Oh no, no! I cannot enjoy the act of watching a film, but then really like the film. Like, there's no question about that.
You need resolution in some. You need a resolution that is clear and succinct
for the story and the rules being set up and told. The Inception thing works because for whatever the entire thing is about, like, the end sort of thing in the movie is like, oh my god, are we still in it? Then like we finally escaped, and it's like, or did we? That doesn't really affect the what's just sort of happened.
But in Inception, that is actually directly tied to what that film is about.
It's one of the machinations of the film, but but the story itself is wrapped.
But the thing is, to me, that the reason the Inception ending is so good is because it really directly ties into everything that film is trying to do, which is it's a film about reuniting family.
Sure.
And the question is that,
is he back?
Well, the question...
I got it.
No, here's the thing. The question that film leaves you on is, does it matter whether this is a dream or not?
Sure. But the thing is, we have the resolution of the actual ending. The ending of Inception happens.
Right.
And then I've experienced the ending. Whew! I am now off the roller coaster, and I'm getting off the roller coaster, and I'm like, wait a minute, did I forget my watch? Right. And like, boom, then it's out. Like, so
whereas I am a fan of when a film, like when the roller coaster stops midway and you're thrown off and you have to find your way back. And
that just sounds awful to me.
But see, that doesn't sound awful to me.
Like The Witch, for instance, The Witch doesn't really have an ending that's similar to these two. The Witch, I liked the ending because it felt like the natural crescendo of what happened and the end of that family's story.
The
ending of the family of the witch, because the whole thing went down, all of them are dead. She joins the coven, and then she floats off into the air.
Because the question that's being asked in that film is the witch supernatural, or is there? How does this? Is this in her head, or is this real?
Oh, see, I never had that question. It was always real.
And then at the end she floats off into the sky.
So
it's real.
So they give it conclusion.
I agree. The ending of the witch, if you want to compare apples and oranges or whatever, is a stronger ending. I would have, for me, looking at this, it seemed to me that fire is such an element is such a important element for death that what I would have loved to have seen is that it's okay to let go and then to cut to the house on fire and trying to decipher what choice they'd made at that point.
But even to the point, because everything, the funny thing is, like, okay, you want to know, I just thought of this off the top of my head. You want to know an ending that I would have thought would be fine?
What's that?
If, they're still outside, like maybe before they even get to the table scene or whatever, and you realize, maybe Trevor realizes he's sick a little sooner, right? Mm-hmm. And they're Travis, sorry, and then Sarah and Paul are out, like, just dealing, like, oh my God, this all just happened, what the hell? And Travis is like, I'm gonna die, like, this is awful, like, this whole thing is awful. Yeah. So then if he, for instance, decided to then spare them the pain of having to kill his son, and he burned himself alive in the house.
Right.
That would work. And if the last shot was just them in awe outside, just like kind of on their knees, like with the house burning, I would have been like, that's the end.
Yeah. But I could have seen that happen
because it just didn't feel like a satisfying, and the whole like Trinity broken thing to me, it had already broken. Again, this is a different style of thing, but it had already sort of broken off my engagement where I wasn't even looking at the microcosms like that.
Okay, I was,
and I'm glad it didn't break for you. Like,
it didn't break for me. I
want people to like.
I kind of agree with you that I think that the ending could be stronger.
Sure.
But I wasn't like broken, or I wasn't like at the ending screaming at the screen. I was like, oh, that's where the film decided to end.
Yeah, it's just the visceral moment at the end. I was just like, oh.
Man, you would have you ever seen films by Michael Haneke?
Maybe. I don't know off the top of my head.
There's a film called Cachet, Hidden, French film.
Ooh, I know what Cachet means.
Yeah. Where you would hate that ending. You would hate most of Michael Haneke's ending.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't watch him then.
I think they're interesting because the thing is they're the kind of endings I love, which is that like. And Cachet, Hidden has an ending where I was like, when it ended, I was like, wait, what? Yeah. And then I went back and thought about it and kind of engaged with it. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting. But to me, this wasn't even the sort of wait, what? I knew that this is the point at which this film was going to end. And I was pleased at the audacity, not the audacity, but the sticking to one's guns of choosing an ending that works for this filmmaker. I didn't feel like the filmmaker just got to this point and was like, yeah, around here. I think this was the point at which the filmmaker just said, I'm ending my story.
This honestly felt to me like there's a different ending. He wasn't happy with the way it sort of came out. And then he just decided, you know what? This is going to be a choose your own adventure of your mind ending. Go.
No, well, see, the fire thing is something that I'm bringing to the table.
No. I'm not saying that that's true or not with fire or anything. I'm just saying this ending, outside of our speculations, outside of that shot in the trailer, etc., it feels like something. Yeah, just from making movies mindset, it feels like this was not the ending originally intended in the script.
Have you seen There Will Be Blood?
Yes.
Did you see
a long time ago, so I don't.
Have you seen the ending?
I don't remember. Okay. I didn't particularly like that film.
Oh boy, by the way, that film was ranked. The New York Times ranked the
but again,
most important movies.
But that's also a film that I will 100% unabashedly be like, I don't like it, but I can totally see it's an amazing piece of cinema.
No, I'm not trying to attack your opinion there. Yeah. You're right. There's a difference between what you like in film and what I like in film, which is why I wanted to show you that scene at the beginning, because it was like, this is a scene that gets me really excited about this movie. I watch that scene and I go, holy shit, I am in for a ride here. And I'm excited to see where this goes. So that, I guess I'm primed for a film like this and a filmmaker like this who is working, you know what it is? It's challenging the audience. And some audience members don't want to be challenged. And that's,
but it's challenging. It's set up, and I agree.
Some audience members just don't want to be challenged.
But it's a challenge that is not a fair one, and that's the wrong sort of term. How do I put it?
For example, here's a movie that a lot of people love, and it has an ending that I think is meant to kind of challenge. But have you seen the film Moon? Yeah. And the ending of that film kind of happens, and I find that ending to be sort of a little bit lackluster, and uninteresting, and it felt like there was more story to tell in that film, But this is not that. This to me is a film that is trying to tell a very specific story, and it's a story of. And what I love about it is that it's within the world of a genre film. It's within the world of a horror or a post-apocalyptic thing, but it's really drilling down into one specific thing, which is the dynamics of family and the dynamics of human interaction.
And that's definitely what it wants to focus on. But then, again, I do have to go back to the tenor of the what the characters deem as important. They throw out the window,
right?
For instance, let's get off the conversation of the key.
Yeah. In
that conversation where they're confronting who opened the door, how would that sort of thing, that conversation is the dumbest conversation in the movie. And it's
why?
Because the characters up until that point have all been super cautious and smart and whatever, but they're ignoring key facts and not sort of pointing at
what?
Well, like how the dog got into the place in the first place and then questioning okay, did someone maybe forget to lock the door? They just get focused in too much on this stuff. And then you counterbalance that with, you're never quite 100% sure when Trevor or Travis, I can't believe Travis, thank you, is dreaming and when he's not. And
they do an interesting technical thing here, which is that, and this happens in Krisha as well, quite a bigger extent, which is that he changes the aspect ratio of the film.
Oh, okay.
So he goes from, I believe it's 235 down to 239 or something like that. So he moves into CinemaScope. And the dream sequences are all filmed with that 239. And then the ending sequence where people get shot is filmed in that same 239. It's kind of almost like...
It's just fucking with you.
Well, the dream, like his worst nightmares are now becoming true.
Sure. But then, so the way this thing deals in suspense, the suspenseful stuff comes from you as an audience member not knowing what is real when, and then sometimes you're snapped back and sometimes you're not. That's a very,
Is that so that to me? So
that's fine, but this movie dies for me by tons of small little paper cutty things, because like the key in the way that sort of you're never quite sure. Like it feels. This is the thing. Sorry, I keep sort of going off of what I really want to say. It is manipulative in a particularly not interesting way to me, to build the suspense.
Okay.
Because, and again, the reason why is it sets up rules and these need to be followed and but then the film itself kind of and you could, maybe that sort of juxtaposition works really well, because no matter what you'd prep in the post-apocalyptic, some shit's going to happen and you're going to be fucked. And I guess again, this is sort of my final thoughts, and then I'll let you finish it off. It just sets up one thing and then throws it out the window for admittedly a more interesting aspect of paranoia and family and survival, but it doesn't do it in a way. Because of the first half into the second half, I don't feel like there's very little elegance in I don't know which sort of side. If it's a dream, if it's not, is this important? Is it not? Now, that having been said, and I don't want to end on a negative note, there's a ton about this film, like I said in the beginning, that I absolutely loved. I think it's masterfully directed overall. The acting is some of the best sort of small scope stuff I've seen in a long time. The set design is amazing. The music cues, the sound design, the cinematography, all of it is top fucking notch. And I want people to see it, but I would be remiss to not, like, if someone said, hey, should I go see this? I'll be like, I would literally say straight up to them, I'd be like, yeah, but I really didn't like the ending.
Right.
Because I would feel like I would be doing a disservice to not throw that caveat in there.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to spoil it anything beyond that.
You know what I say to people when that kind of scenario happens is that I'm always trying to figure out what kind of film viewer they are.
Yeah.
And there are certain people that I would recommend this film to, and there are certain people I would say, you know what, you're not going to enjoy it. I think it's a great film, but I don't dispute that people are not going to enjoy it.
Right.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thoroughly was engaged with it. And I think that question of suspense is really interesting, because the one thing that I thought was really well done was the opening. There's a scene at the beginning where Will and Paul are going on the road to try and find Will's family, and it's on this truck, and the whole scene plays out. And what happens is Paul and Will get ambushed, and there's a question. The scene hinges upon the question of, what does Will know? And like, who is he telling the truth? And that comes up again later on, where when they're sitting to have a drink, and at one point Paul realizes that a truth that Will has told him before has been changed. Again, I think this is a filmmaker that loves Paul Thomas Anderson, because of the reference to Punch Drunk Love, and this scene played out very much like a scene from
those are the type of those two things that you just referenced are my favorite kind of suspense.
So the suspense of the who opened the door thing to me plays in the same way, because I'm still
completely different,
because I'm still asking the question, what does Will know, and do I really trust him? And in fact, and the way in which what happens towards the end, which is when they're having an argument and we don't see the child sick, and he says that, and Will says, "Hey, get your mask off. There's no one sick here." It starts asking me the question is like, how much does Will actually know? How much is he trying to sabotage? And how much is he self-delusional about this? So the way in which this film plays with suspense in that regard really works for me. And again, the thing that I love is that all of this is hinged upon that I don't think Will is a bad guy. And I don't think
any of them are bad guys.
And I don't think Paul is a bad guy. I don't think Paul is like
Paul's just overly cautious.
Out to kill children or anything like that. I think he is like basically saying, this is the world with which I live in now, and I need to make choices that are difficult. Like, and the first choice he has to make is killing his father-in-law. Yep. And that's where this film works for me. It's not in the execution is wonderful. The execution is beautiful. This is a director who knows and understands composition and camera movement and sound to a degree that is I would say what's the term for when Amadeus prodigical?
Oh,
he's a prodigy of some kind.
Someone's been playing words with friends
because he's young. He's a very young guy. Krisha, he was only 28 years old when he made that. He's probably only in his 30s now, maybe. So he has a real command of tone of the cinematic language, but all of that to me is secondary to his command of human experience. And what this film the reason this film works for me is that it is a profound human experience. It is a genre, story. It's The Walking Dead. It's a zombie movie, whatever. It's a, horror paranoia, but it's really about like, what would you do in that situation? And what are the choices that you're going to make in that situation? That's why this film lands for me, is that I feel connected to the choices that these characters have to make. And I feel connected to these characters. And that's why, here's the thing. If a filmmaker does that, then I'm fine with whichever direction you want to take your story. Whichever direction a filmmaker wants to take their story, as long if their foremost concern is engaging me, and then if they're secondarily doing that through the mastery of the cinematic language, then I'm like, do with it what you will. Take me in a place that I didn't expect you were going to take me to, and do it. Take me anywhere now. I'm in your hands, and I want to be on this ride with wherever it is you want to go. And that's why this film works for me.
Okay. Well, there you go, guys and gals. This has been the only podcast about the film It Comes at Night. Shahir, when you're not coming at night, where can folks find you?
Oh, God. And there's no retort to that doesn't sound disgusting, but you can come at my website.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure some perv out there has.
Oh, God. I've never thought about that before. Now I've got the image in my head.
Wait, you just got the image. Sorry. You just got the image of someone jerking off to your website in your head.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I've never thought of that image. Has never occurred to me.
Well, welcome to the internet. Rule 34, baby.
You can do what you do on my website at www.shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD. Matt, when you're not incepting disgusting images into people's brains with a spinning top, where can people find you?
You can find me working on my spec script for the porn parody, also titled It Comes at Night, at Matthew Kroll, MATTHWKROL.com for my life and works. Skeletor, the number 4 PREZ on Instagram, and Emperor MSK on Twitter. Guys, thank you so much for listening.
All 10 of you, we appreciate it.
Thank you for sticking around. By the way, write us in, onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what you thought. Did this movie have any problems? Did you say, fuck it, this movie's brilliant?
Did it have the keys to your heart? Is what I'm going to say.
Work on those night moves, Shahir. Yeah. Work on them right now. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.